Okay, I'm going live. And we're live, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of Dwindling and Unbelief. I'm Atheist T Girl. For you, those of you who, why did I? Well, I agreed to it because I had no idea what was involved. Yeah, you did try to warn me. For those of y'all who don't know, the movie Saturday's Warrior is a filming of a play from Mormon religion called Saturday's Warrior. Oh, did you know that there is an Osmond in the video movie? You know the scene where he picks up the kid and asks him if he's over 8 and then puts him down? Yes, that's one of the Osmond kids. And I think it's one of Marie Osmond's kids. And I saw some Googles, I saw some goofs and mix-ups, and he like dropped this kid 3 or 4 times trying to get the scene right. Like the first time he picks him up and he drops him, and the kid's not expecting, and the kid just goes boom. And they're like, okay, let's do it again. He picks him up the second time. The skateboard did not keep going. So this time he puts the kid down, but the kid's on the skateboard without knowing it, and whoop! Well, I tried to learn more about it. They are a lot of cults. Okay, so my first question is, y'all told me Saturday's Warrior. I go to watch it, and the clip is a picture from the very beginning of a guy in a cornfield. So I'm thinking it's a real kind of movie, and I'm thinking he's going to have to deal with some kind of thing. But no, why is it called Saturday's Warrior? The last day. that makes that that makes sense because at the beginning of the movie when they're all up in, I don't know if it's heaven or wherever they're at, and talking about coming down, one of the guy who goes down to become the minister, he's talking to his friend and said, "Yeah, we pull some strings so we get to be in the last generation." Yes. Okay. Apparently, people can't hear you. One second. Can y'all talk? You might need to. Yes. On the Zoom. Darn it. Okay, we are talking now. We have other people talking. Can you hear them? Yeah, you're sharing your screen, Tritel. Here, I can listen to the YouTube channel without it coming over my speaker. One second. Okay, no, they can't hear us still. Yeah, I can hear myself, but not y'all. Let's look. Why is it? Can y'all talk again? Yeah, I haven't changed anything. It just shows no audio coming to my channels. Well, we can play Ark Survival Evolved. I doubt it. I don't see anything. Join us for our next comedy show on properties. Yep, that's right. No, it sent it to my. I'm supposed to be sending it from my computer to.
I should be getting a delay.
Can one of y'all talk now?
It's all right. I've started recording.
I think I may have gotten it.
All right, we're working. I think. Or I just heard myself.
Can one of y'all
One of
talk
those
now?
two things. Testing.
I have no clue.
It's all right. I've started recording.
I think I may have.
Sorry, share
gotten
computer
it.
sound went off. All right, I've started
Yep,
recording.
it's working. There's a delay, but
All right,
it's
let's
working.
Start this whole thing over. I just heard Sorry about that, everyone.
Can one of y'all talk
Sorry, thank you for your patience. None of us know what we're doing.
now? Da 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 da. It's time to light the music. It's time to get off him. It's time to get the music.
Put on makeup. All right. Welcome to Dwindling in Unbelief, episode 2.
I think I may have.
I'm the Sinister Porpoise. All right, I've started
recording. Yep, it's working. There's a delay, but it's working.
This whole thing over. I just heard Sorry about that,
All
everyone.
right, atheist.
Okay,
Sorry,
who's
thank you for
sharing
your
their screen?
patience. None of us know what we're doing.
Da 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 da
Not me.
da. It's time to light the music. It's time to get off him. It's time to get the
Not me.
music.
Put on makeup. All right. There, everyone Welcome to Dwindling in Unbelief, episode 2. No one needs to
I think I may have.
I'm the Sinister. Stop sharing my screen.
Okay, and can y'all hear me now?
I could hear you just fine before. I need to go back and.
No. I had it open in my audio, and that was making a loopback.
Yeah, just make sure you don't have the. And do I have 2 mics set up again? Because sometimes that happens with my computer.
Okay, and can y'all hear me now?
I could hear you. Anyway.
Okay, yes, it's working, and you can stop doing the screen share.
Let me stop doing the screen share. I want to stop recording. I just don't want the screen shared. Oh, yeah. There we go.
Hey!
All right.
Yeah, it would have been that button marked stop share that was staring at me.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to Dwindling in Unbelief 0.8B. 2B.
Or not to be.
Or not to be, yeah.
I am the Sinister Porpoise.
I'm Atheist T-Girl.
And I'm Triatiel.
And today we have, well, it's wrong to call it a treat, but we're going to answer questions from Atheist T-Girl about the movie Saturday's Warrior, a piece of Mormon culture that you just have to see to believe.
And if
Just don't.
If y'all thought I was talking to myself before, I wasn't. Okay, so the first question I asked, and I didn't hear the answer, was, why is it called Saturday's Warrior?
Well, I don't really know, but I'm assuming it's because in the Doctrine and Covenants, the Earth is given a temporal existence of 7,000 years when Joseph Smith is, of course, speaking for God as he always does, or having God speak to him, depending on your beliefs. And of course, the Bible also says that a day is but 1,000 years. 1,000 years is but a day in the light of God. So basically, we're born on Saturday, and Triateo brought up another point that people missed earlier.
Yeah, we were taught growing up that we were actually going to see Christ's return in our lifetimes. Basically, it's like we were sent as warriors to fight in the end times, and we were super special and super strong in previous life for doing so. And so basically, right now, the Mormon Church is like, "Hi, Christ is right around the corner. We're all going to die."
Yeah, but they've been that way for over 130 years now.
Well,
Yeah, they have, but
the corner store Jesus left to go get his cigarettes from, it was just a little further than he expected.
Jesus doesn't smoke. He's a Mormon.
Well, whatever, he went to go get coffee.
Nope, can't get coffee either.
Chewing gum?
You can
Chewing gum
chew
you could have.
gum. You can chew gum.
Yeah, he went to go get some chewing gum, and he just hasn't gotten back yet because it was further than he expected. Maybe the ATM machine's down and he's waiting for it to come back up so he can pay for his gum.
Well, okay. In defense, though, Lara, like they're even worse about it lately because they're losing so many members so fast. Like my dad is going to college to learn Hebrew because he thinks that the Jews are going to come back in full force in about 8-ish, 10-ish years or so.
I was going to say, if Trump has his way, we'll be in a nuclear apocalypse soon.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let's not go there
we do
right
not
now.
need to go there.
Well, so I was pointing out that in the movie, in the beginning, when they're up in their pre-existence talking about coming down, the two kids that go out and become missionaries together, they're talking about pulling strings so they got to be in the last generation. That it was an honor.
Yeah, it is considered an honor. We've been told how super special we are over and over again.
Especially because we were born Mormon.
Yeah.
Like, we had anything to do with that.
Yeah, like, oh, you're Mormon, so you must have done some real good stuff in the previous life. As we kind of alluded to last episode, the more help you did in the war in heaven, the more privileges you get in this life.
As long as you were on the right side.
Yeah, as long as you were on the right side. If you were a fence sitter, we talked about how fence sitters in the previous life were black. It's basically you deserved what you got because you did stuff in the previous existence is essentially what it is.
And I've read some of that book and it's terrible.
Which book?
The one that y'all...
the Church and the Negro.
Yeah.
No, the church pretends that doesn't exist.
Yeah, they know just how bad that particular one is, so they act like it's not there. They only acknowledge crappy bad things when people actually try to force them to remember it.
Where the evidence becomes clear that certain things did happen, like Joseph Smith being convicted for gold digging.
Yeah. Like, basically, their MO is sweep it under the rug first, and then if sweeping it under the rug doesn't work, then put a PR spin on it. Is essentially their MO. Oh.
Damn it. Sorry.
So, this brings me to my first question. In the pre-life, y'all were all supposed to have been thousands or millions of years old, right?
Yeah.
We don't know when our spirits were born.
Why are they all different ages?
I'm thinking that has more to do with the actors who played each of them, but
that's what I thought at first. But they wrote this little girl, the one in yellow. They wrote her as a little kid. The lines they give her are little kid lines.
Yeah, well, she's a little kid.
She is a little kid, but
you can only expect a little Mormon child to do so much. I mean,
but couldn't they have written some lines for her to parrot that would have been more? I'm thousands of years old. I'm just stuck in this little body because it's for the film. Instead, they wrote her as a little kid.
Mormons aren't going to think that much into it. They're sheltered people.
What are you expecting this to make logical sense?
Well, speaking of thinking too much into it, so there are 8 kids.
Yep.
8 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And at the very beginning, they almost say the word abortion, but they stop it because of the terrible things it does to preborn spirits.
It doesn't let them have physical bodies.
Okay.
Duh.
But about 2/3 of the way through, the woman has a miscarriage. The mom has a miscarriage. Where's that 9th kid?
Okay, so I want to say something that's like not necessarily doctrinal, but kind of implied as an extra guilt trip against abortion. I was taught that the spirit does not completely enter the body until you are actually physically born. So the implications of that were often, if you abort your baby, you're not destroying a body, you're destroying a spirit. That is not necessarily doctrinal, but it is kind of something that was culturally implied to me as I was growing up and to several other girls in my group. It's an extra guilt trip to force you to have those babies you don't want.
But if she was supposed to have a baby and something happened to it, then there should have been one left kid that would end up in a different family.
Wait, why don't they just send the soul back?
That's what happened. The little girl went to go down and got sent back, and then she went down when they had the real baby. But
because I got the power of God, she got the licked cupcake lessons.
But if that was the plan the whole time, then wouldn't also, if you got an abortion, the same thing would happen? That baby was never supposed to be born in the first place.
I don't think there's any Mormon doctrine that clarifies what happens during an abortion.
No, there's not Mormon doctrine. That's why I said it's not doctrinal. It was culturally implied to me. But there are certain things that they tried to make logic out of some of the holes. And that was one of those things where they tried to put some logic into a loophole. And it has been culturally implied to me that when you have an abortion, you're not destroying the body, you're destroying the spirit. And that's why some Mormons are so like heavily against even aborting the baby, even if it's going to die.
Doesn't one guy just say it's like, I was going down this black tunnel and all of a sudden I'm back? Implying that the spirit just goes back?
That was at the beginning, yes.
Yeah. Yes.
And my point is, if they just go back, then why is abortion a bad thing? Which they state in the movie.
When is it ever consistent in Mormonism? Is another thing I want to bring up.
Yeah. Because you're delaying sweet spirit children that God had sex just to bring into the world, into the universe. Physical bodies.
How it was explained to me, again, this is cultural, not doctrinal, and cultural can change even faster than doctrine does. But basically,
wait, what was that thing that said Power Rangers at the bottom of the screen?
That's the next question. I'm letting Tri-Tail finish first.
But okay, how it was explained to me, especially when I was not dating like I was supposed to be, was by not having the children that I promised to have in the premortal existence, because it was assumed that I was going to have children because I was born Mormon. So therefore, I must have made those promises to God to have children and bear them and raise them, that by not getting married and not bearing those children, those poor children might have to go to another family. And I was breaking the promise that I made in the premortal existence. I didn't remember, nor do I think actually exists, that I was breaking my promise to my husband and my children and therefore committing a sin.
Yeah, that
It's-
sounds about right.
Yeah. So while there's no clear, concise, definite, okay, if your child is not born, if the child is aborted, their spirit dies. I am telling you that when I was growing up, that is what was implied to me,
Mhm.
but somebody else might have gotten something different because nothing is consistent in Mormonism
Okay.
except for hatred. Hatred's damn near about the only thing that's consistent in Mormonism.
Well, then
And the little factory that has the power of procreation, but we'll cover that next week.
my next question for you
Episode.
is: in y'all's pre-life, were y'all Power Rangers?
I was a
Apparently
member of the
not.
Voltron Force.
Because this happens. That sure looks like a Power Ranger move to me.
That looks like pathetic Mormon dancing to me.
I didn't really watch Power Rangers, so I don't know. I will say this though, I must have I apparently did good enough in the pre-existence to like actually be Mormon, but not good enough to stay Mormon apparently. So there is that. You have to keep that in mind as well.
Why do they say, well, I know why they say it, but what sense does it make to send your followers to Earth, but to do the little Men in Black mind bleep thing to them before they hit the ground?
You want to take that one or should I?
If you're asking for sense, I think you're looking for something that isn't there, but
Okay,
apparently it has something to do with free agency. If you watch
yeah, if you it's basically okay. So the setup is that according to this is doctrinal, what I'm telling you. This is not cultural, this is doctrinal.
Okay.
Apparently, God had a plan and he told us what the plan was. And basically he says you go down to earth, you get a body, you get tested to see if you're worthy. You have to do this list of things, and then if you do this list of things and you do your best, God might have you come back and live like him. You will become like God. You will become a god.
but only
And
if you have a penis.
yeah, only if you have a penis. If
And
you're
until
a girl like me,
1978, if you were white.
yeah.
Actually, I believe John Lund says it's always possible for blacks to enter the celestial kingdom. They just have to wait.
It was originally they would only be servants, but yeah, it again contradictions happen in Mormonism. But basically, it was, and God presented this plan in such a way that we were like, we can't wait. We're going to get bodies, and Earth life is going to be so great, and we're going to come back and be like God. And apparently, we all liked this plan. Frankly, I have problems, but hey. But the only way to be tested was to not remember any of it. And we had to go down and try to figure it out because, of course, all of God's plans make sense.
And he waited 3,000 years before telling John Smith this?
I don't know who John Smith is.
Or
Joseph,
Joseph Smith.
just call him Old Joe. We'll know who you're talking about. But
Call him Gold Digger.
yeah, but yeah, it apparently that was also part of the plan. Also want to.
Okay. That stopped the Zoom meeting. We have done better. Um, They're starting Google Hangouts right now. I apologize, everyone. And y'all can't even see me dancing because it's not showing on the screen. Y'all just hear me. Oh. Okay, so what do I put on the screen now? I can make stuff go infinite loops. Okay, let's try that. 1 second. Hello?
Hello.
Can there be 3 people?
All right. Use my camera. Hold on. All right. There we go.
Let me see if it's making noise.
I don't want it to upgrade to Zoom yet. I don't want to pay for a monthly service like that.
Makes sense.
Did Tria Tail get the message? Use my camera. Hold on.
Okay, good. We can hear you.
All right. Do I have... all right, I have 2 meetings open. That's part of the problem.
Hello.
All right. Sorry about that. Zoom just cut us off after 40 minutes. So how do I share this to YouTube?
No, I'm already sharing it.
Okay. Sorry, everyone. We cut out.
Only problem is it's got you really big and us really small. I'm not upset about
Well, I
that.
think if I just focus on a different one. There we go. That's how that works. Should do that automatically, though. That's weird.
Oh, no, it's focused on whoever I click on.
Well, unclick it then.
And now it's stuck on you, Triatil.
Fun.
All right. Unfortunately, Google Hangouts is going away, but Google Hangouts is free. I don't know if anything good is going to replace it, but we were talking about Saturday's Warrior.
We were.
I believe we were just asked if we were Power Rangers in the previous life. I said I piloted the Red Lion, a Voltron, and wasn't a Power Ranger.
Yeah, I don't even remember what my point was. So.
And as long as you didn't... Oh, right,
yeah.
we were talking about abortion and...
No, that was before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was... I don't remember where we are. I think we should move on. I think my point was practically made anyways, so...
Okay, well then, let me see. My next question was... I actually wrote this stuff down.
I confer onto both of you the priesthood.
Okay.
Yay!
Okay, I guess I'm a priest now.
You would start out as a deacon. But...
Now, I understand that if y'all are really good, y'all get... Well, not y'all, I'm talking about Mormons. If you were really good, you got to become a god and become like God. Were they going to be gods in the same universe?
No. God is
Actually,
the God of this universe.
That's not entirely clear.
Okay, fair. Because, like I said, I was taught that that God went through the same process that He's putting us through, and that's how He became God. And so the assumption was that God created this universe, because the way I was taught was in the Bible, which they do use the Bible on occasion. It said that God created like the stars and the heavens and things like that, and heavens was assumed to be also the planets.
Oh, they're there. And Battlestar Galactica.
So again, contradictions happen. So
The reason,
Lara is most likely going to be taught something a little bit different than I was.
No, it's just not ever clear whether it's his own universe or the planet.
the reason I'm asking is because in the movie, when they were singing and she's trying to convince her twin brother to go back to being Mormon, she points up to the sky and says, "Look at all those stars, infinite opportunities for us." And so I'm thinking, does she mean that each of them get their own star and their own planets on this universe?
It's a possibility.
I
I
mean,
mean,
Mormons, when talking to Mormons, non-Mormons, Mormons don't even like to own this doctrine.
that is true too. Like, they're trying to pull away from that because they want to look more mainstream Christian. Especially right now, because they realize that a lot of their older doctrines are kicking them in the ass. But the like I said, like, I was taught that God lived on his own planet, Kolob, and so it was assumed that he created everything from Kolob, and since Kolob is in the universe, he created the universe, was what was assumed and taught to me. Laura, just
That's pretty much
you don't
it.
have to date yourself, but I got out of Young Women's. Well, I went into Young Women's like the mid 90s. When did you go into Young Women's? Or not Young Women's, but
I
Young
was
Men's,
gonna
sorry.
say, considering I'm transgender and
I'm sorry. I think of you as a woman because that's
good, I think of myself that way too.
so I apologize, but yeah. So when did you go into Young Men's? You don't have to like completely date yourself, but I just want to kind of get an
Let's
idea.
see. I would have been given the priesthood in the early 90s. So I
Okay.
remember telling the
Okay.
bishop, it's like, ugh, I'll have to wear ties. For some reason, I just hated wearing ties.
Oh, I can understand that because ties were a bitch. So,
Well, at
so
least I didn't
okay.
have to wear flower dress and pantyhose.
Speaking of trans stuff with that, my best friend is a trans guy, and he has to go use the restroom once, and I let him go into the restroom, and I heard him put the seat down. It's like, darn, he could have told me he was going to be pooping first, and then he started peeing. I was like, why does he sit down to pee? Oh, duh.
Well, it could have just been for the same reason I sit down to pee. It's just easier.
I will admit, now that I do it, yes, it is.
Plus, now that I go into the women's restroom, you don't really want to be standing up.
Okay, so
As you should well know.
when they, and it's going to be shown on the screen for the people, but you might not see it for a couple seconds because it's delayed, and I can't share just a picture on this version. When little what's his name goes off to the mission field, and his girlfriend, one of the Sylveskis or whatever their names were, I don't remember what the family's name was, is telling him she'd be faithful. He pulls out a promise note from her that she'll be faithful until he comes back from the mission field. Is that something women were expected to write to their?
I don't know. I can't tell you at all because I was in the position where, because I was asexual and they were pushing me to date, that actually pushed me out of the church pretty quickly. I mean, there's other details and it's a long ass story, but essentially, like, I was pushed out of the church before I even started to date. So I don't even know how accurate that is. Beyond, I do know some people start dating before the mission and will put themselves essentially on hold with promises that they will marry each other. But I don't know how common that is still, or how common it would have been in the 70s. I believe that was a 70s showing, late 70s showing of
Yes.
Saturday's Warrior. Okay,
Actually,
yeah.
it was 1989.
Was it?
The
Wow.
version we watched was 1989.
Oh, wow.
Wow. But yeah, I don't really know because I didn't date. I had no attractions whatsoever. And when I got pushed to date, I did try to date somebody, and that eventually led me out of the church.
Utah Mormons specifically are often told that they should marry a returned missionary.
Everybody, no, I don't think that's just a Utah thing. Like, it was
I was
pushed
never
pretty
told that.
heavily here.
I was never told to marry a returned missionary.
Yes, boys aren't told to marry return missionaries, but that was on our list growing up. It was specifically told to girls that yes, you marry a return missionary. Now, I will say this culturally, again, this is not doctrine, this is church culture. Church culture is marry ASAP. Culturally, it was looked at when I was 19 and not dating. I kept getting little hints dropped like, you don't want to have to go on a mission, do you? You want to be married before then, right?
Because
Like,
missions are only for ugly women.
Yeah, missions are only for ugly women
Are
who
you
cannot catch
serious?
themselves a man. Yes, and I don't consider myself ugly, and I don't think I was considered ugly. It was more, nobody wanted me because all the boys were horny and wanted to bang. Meanwhile, I was not horny, and it was very obvious I didn't want to bang, so nobody wanted me. So they were like, keep trying. Try to find somebody. You don't want to like miss out on your children. You don't want to miss out on being a god in heaven. It's like, you don't want to miss out on being in the celestial kingdom, do you? You don't want to be a servant to your family, do you? You don't want to be an angel, do you? You want to be like God. You need to get your act together and start. Like, I was pulled into the bishop's office multiple times to tell me that I needed to get started on dating because I was screwing up my eternal progression, according to them.
Then on to eternal regret.
Yeah, like,
oh yeah, I just remember what song it was from too.
Damn you, Lara.
What song is that
Damn
from?
you to outer darkness.
What's that from?
Oh, I can't remember the actual
thank thee, O
words
God,
now.
for a prophet.
Oh yeah,
One
a
of the
Scottish
weird
song that we stole.
One of the weird Mormon hymns to the current prophet, whoever it happens to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I am bringing up another picture. Y'all probably can't see it unless you watch the stream and it's delayed. But it's Drew Carey and the
Drew
other.
Carey is not in the movie.
Well, it's a Drew Carey lookalike. He's look like an inch from the other guy's face, yelling at him. But did anyone else get the feeling that he was way too into the other guy to be a Mormon missionary? He was shining. He was shining his shoes, following the guy around like a puppy.
Let's just say gay activity on missions is not unknown.
Discouraged. It's highly discouraged, but the thing is that you have to repress yourself so much that sometimes I wonder how many people are gay and don't realize it because they're repressing so badly.
I think that was possibly in this. I don't know that they meant to write it that way, but that's what it comes across as.
It wasn't. No, it wasn't. It wasn't meant to be written that way. There are lots of things that I realized after watching. I'm like, that person that says dirty things, and you listen to them say dirty things, and they don't realize that what they're saying is dirty. But you're like sitting there, like, do you realize how like messed up you sound? Like, do you realize what you're saying? I still get into that mode sometimes because I am not sexual. So sometimes I'll say something and people will snicker. I'm like, crap, that was sexual, wasn't it? Son of a bitch. That's kind of how Mormonism is. They don't know. They don't realize what subtext is under what they're saying sometimes.
Here's the things. There are things I still don't know. Even in my 40s, and I'll have to ask, it's like, what does this mean? And everyone will be like, wait, what?
Yeah, I've adapted quite a bit, but I still have my moments. I still have my moments.
Well, I'm going with the Drew Carey not really romance thing. I have another picture I just put up.
Is it the one where he says they can be roommates at BYU?
No, but that does
Because
go into my whole that he's really gay trying to. No, did anyone notice that he spit in the guy's face?
No.
no,
I was too busy trying to
He
put
was-
it on 2 times.
When he was screaming at him, he literally spit, and the guy just kept in character and just wiped it away. And I saw that, I was like, "Crap, he got spit on, didn't he?" And I then watched the goofs at the end, and like, yeah, this one character, he was so into it, he didn't just played it off when he got spit on. So
so into it. The acting was god awful.
he got spit on and just kept in character the whole time.
That's
to wipe
the
it off.
problem. That's the problem. See, they're god-awful actors who don't know how to act, but I can guarantee you that all of them were like super enthusiastic and into it. That's the problem.
Oh, are these like the people who did the Hill Kimura pageant when that was a thing? Why did they get rid of that?
Probably.
Okay, y'all just brought up another term I don't know. Hill
Oh, the
Kimura pageant?
The Mormon Church owns a piece of land in Upper New York State called Hill Kimura, supposedly where Joseph Smith found the Book of Mormon. It used to be every summer they put on like an outdoor play. It was basically the Book of Mormon on stage. I went there once. It was kind of impressive, to be honest. It was written by Orson Scott Card. And that was not my phone.
That was mine. I thought I turned it off.
But apparently they stopped doing it.
They stopped doing it because it was too... Okay. There's multiple reasons why they stopped doing it. 1, a lot of money. 2, no attendance, because people are like, we don't want to go. And 3, that is actually a good place for non-Mormons to show up and show you information on the real history of the church. There are actual people who go and do missionary work around the Hill Kimura pageant, trying to be like, hey, let us pull you out of Mormonism. And because it's getting harder and harder to hide the actual truth of how the church was founded, the prophet's kind of scared of people coming up and actually telling Mormons what's really going on. So they stopped it for those 3 reasons.
Yeah, I remember it's like when I went there, it's like it was
So
early to mid 90s. Remember going there at my dad's Ford Tempo. We actually picked up some literature from across the street. And it's like right before you enter the church grounds, there was a trash can with a sign above it says, "The literature distributed across the street is not official church literature."
So this sort of sounds like
times.
it was a temporary version of the ARC experience the Christians have.
Yeah. Also wanted to point out
It didn't cost you anything to go there to see.
No, it did. Also wanted to point out that they also try to use it for conversion. Kind of like how like these churches will host these big celebration events and be like, come on over to our church. It was also used for that. And honestly, nobody wanted to go anymore because the Book of Mormon history, it's not real history, but the Book of Mormon story is basically a big racist pile of junk. And it's not cool to go see big racist piles of junk anymore, which is a good thing. I'm glad it's not, okay anymore.
Well,
so the church was like, this looks bad. Let's stop trying to invite people. And since we're not inviting people anymore, I guess we're not doing it. So
that when they did do it, Palmyra, New York, that the week they had it, they also did a Mark Twain festival, which I think was another snub at the church.
That's awesome.
Because if you don't know this, in Roughing It, Mark Twain describes the Book of Mormon as
chloroform in print.
Chloroform in print. That guy always had a way of words. So there was two different terms that they used in the movie that I did not understand, and I don't know if y'all will be able to hear it. I'm going to try. Oh, I muted it.
Right here in this very park. Little gold
We're
all
waiting.
around us.
If you didn't hear it. Okay, so at the...
I think you just muted Triateo.
No, I muted myself. I didn't want to belch on screen. I'm trying to be somewhat polite.
Okay, well, at least the people in the audience would have probably heard it. I think it shared to them. But when the kid's getting discouraged that he hasn't gotten anyone baptized, and the Drew Carey lookalike is yelling at him, he tells him, right now around this park, we're surrounded by hundreds of little golden ones or golems. Is that a...
I guess that's we're surrounded by golden ones is probably just referring to people that are ready to hear the gospel, essentially. I don't know
Okay.
if there's anything more to it than that.
Oh, there are 5 people watching this now. Sorry.
And another point, when he was getting discouraged, he said, "We haven't had one baptism. I thought by this time we'd been transitioned." Is that another term, or...
I believe the word is translation.
Translation, yes. What is that?
It's actually when you die without experiencing death, you're just translated into a
Oh,
perfected body. Like if you live through, well, the Mormons don't have the rapture, but if you live through the apocalypse, basically, you get it automatically.
Well, was
And
it?
you're in the
Don't
first
the
resurrection.
Mormons? Yeah, don't the Mormons teach that? Was it Peter, John, and there are
John the
three?
Revelator.
Yeah, John the Revelator asked God if he could not die before Christ's return or something like that, and that's actually something that refers to. And they also taught that there are 3 Nephites or people or Native American ancestors, basically, that are walking around that have perfected bodies but haven't died, and they will not die because that was the gift that they asked Christ to give them. So it kind of refers to that.
okay. And
And
yes,
occasionally,
translated was the word.
the Mormons do have like 3 Nephite stories, like the Christian angel stories about people who just mysteriously show up and offer help.
Yeah. Like, I was on the side of the road and I was dying, and like these 3 Nephites showed up and they fixed my car and they got me to safety. Oh yeah, there's tons of those. Again, those stories are not doctrine. They're based on doctrine, but they're cultural.
I
They
can
are faith
understand it.
promoting rumors.
I have seen those
Yeah.
kind of... When I was in a Southern Baptist, I saw that kind of stuff too. Like, someone would say, "I was almost out of money, but I made sure I tithed." And then,
God.
and then I was going to give one of my purses to charity, and God told me to look in it, and I found there was a hole in the bottom, and there was $40 worth of coins in it. So I had money for food.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, girl, you have $40 of coins in your purse? You're lucky your back wasn't broken from carrying that thing around.
I mean,
We
even if
have
they were all
similar
$1
stories.
coins.
Yeah, we have similar stories of like, if you pay your tithe, all your other bills will magically be able to be paid.
Yes.
That's pushed pretty hard in Mormonism too. Also stuff like, if you obey the word of wisdom, you'll live longer. Now, granted, some of the things on the word of wisdom, actually, if they were consistent, might make some sense. Like, limiting your caffeine is probably a good idea, but it's not about caffeine. But, we're taught that if we do the word of wisdom and we're always bless our food, that we'll live until we're like 100 or something.
But why would you want to live to 100 if you could go to heaven and be?
Because you want to be here when Jesus comes back, because then you have a better chance of getting to the celestial kingdom, and for us being eternally pregnant in some guy's harem.
Speaking of which, if we're all children of God, did she have each of those kids individually, or just sort of like?
The process is the same.
Yeah, it's the same. I was pretty much told that I would be pregnant eternally. Basically, I would get pregnant, bear that child, get pregnant, bear another child. Yes. And then also, just to let you know,
or triplets.
Mormons don't like to admit this, but they don't practice polygamy in life, but they still believe in polygamy. So not all of those kids might have come from the same heavenly mother is what they call it.
So if you were a woman, what they saw as a woman in their church, your promise of a future in heaven was to be internally pregnant like an alien brood mom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, and they don't really tell you this really well growing up. They tell you stuff like you're going to be a priestess in heaven and supporting your husband. And so you get this idea of, oh, I'm going to be standing there. Like, you can't create things because you don't have the priesthood. But here's the thing. They make it sound like you're a counselor or something, like you're standing there and you're making the decisions together and everything. And then you get young women who are like, where'd you get that idea? You're just going to be making the babies. And I'm like, so I don't even get to decide like what animals we have or nothing. I'm just in the background silent. I'm like, 13-year-old me was pissed. Let me tell you.
But think about it from the guy's perspective.
Upset.
All right. Not that the women don't get a raw deal here, because they do, but think about it from the guy's perspective if they really think about it. It's like, you have to have a harem of eternally pregnant wives to deal with for the rest of eternity.
That I still think the women have it worse.
Like, I'm telling you, 13-year-old me was pissed when I figured this out. Not pissed enough to leave quite yet, but I think that was kind of one of the first little things to go on what we call the shelf, where it's like you put it somewhere on a back burner or onto a shelf, and you don't think about it. And then as you put more and more things in the back of your mind, eventually it just shatters. It's like, there's too much weight. I'm not thinking about too many things. And now, holy shit, there's a flood.
Yeah, for me, it was the weird reverence they have for the pioneers. And when they made us do genealogy for some reason, I was like, hey, wait a minute. My family's Pennsylvania Dutch. Going on this pioneer trek isn't going to help me connect with my ancestors. Because my ancestors didn't do that.
I have a Trek story for another time. Like, I didn't go on Trek. My mom, because of my sister, basically, long story short, they told my sister that she could serve everybody on Trek. My sister with spina bifida who has trouble walking. They were like, oh, she can work in the kitchen and serve everybody who goes on Trek. And my mom was like, wait, you just called my child a servant to the ableds? And she just let one rip on the bishop.
What is Trek? I'm assuming it's not Star Trek.
It's basically trying to relive the whole Mormon experience going westward thing. Like, my sister did it, and she was essentially kidnapped.
Wait, what?
She didn't want to go on it.
Basically, you walk from the beginning of the morning to the end of the night. You're out in the middle of nowhere. You cook like the pioneers would have around the 1840-ish, 1850-ish time frames. 1860-ish. Yeah, you wear the clothes that they would have worn. So you're wearing long ass dresses and long sleeves. Again, I did not go, so I'm giving secondhand information here. Because basically, my mom was so pissed that when Trek occurred, because she didn't sign anything and she told me I could go if I wanted. I was like, hell no, I'm not doing that bullshit. She took us to Disney the day that everybody in our ward did Trek because she was that mad. She basically, this is totally off topic, but basically they were like, hell no, my daughter is not a servant to you, dumb Abels. You are excluding all of the kids who cannot go on this and making them feel shame. She's like, screw this. The day that they all gathered to go for Trek, because Trek is down in Orlando, and I live in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
So mom was like, we're going to go to Disney because, and what she did was about 5 minutes before they were scheduled to leave, 5 minutes before they were scheduled to leave, my mom drove past the church playing Motown as loud as she could, because it's basically all we were allowed to listen to other than gospel. And she rolled the windows down. She's like, wave to everybody as we go by. They're going on Trek. And we're like, we're going to Disney. Y'all are going on Trek.
Okay. I just want to interrupt here to help anyone who isn't Mormon understand what Pioneer Trek is, essentially. But you have lived through a certain time to get it, or played the remake of it. It's basically the Oregon Trail minus the dysentery.
Okay, so in the movie, they show that the zero population growth people are evil, and you could tell they were evil because all the women had midriff exposing shirts. I'm assuming that was a sign that they were evil.
Yes, they were immodest.
And
yes, the modesty is bad.
Just like you catch the teen drinking a caffeinated soda at one point.
And so he goes home. I forget all these kids' names. Terry or Timmy or Jimmy or Biffy or something like that. Jimmy.
Yeah.
He goes home and gets in an argument with his parents because he's afraid they're going to want to have more kids. You know, there's 7 at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And they get in this whole huge argument. He storms out of the house. Then, later, to make him feel better, they give him a birthday party with crappy gifts. And then the last gift is to tell him that they're pregnant. And yet, he's the bad guy in this scene.
Well, there were 2 gifts that I thought were good.
The car.
Yeah.
The car
was
and
good.
the tickets to Camelot.
Yes, okay.
Okay, here's the thing. With the Mormons, remember how we taught that women are taught that they're brooding machines?
Uh-huh.
Like, that is a major doctrine. That is like one of the biggest doctrines that they push, is that you are supposed to grow up, get married, and have kids. They start you on this early. They start you on this as early as nursery, which is like the babies to 3-year-olds. So for the parents to hear from Jimmy, I don't want y'all to have another child. That is just like being like Satan coming down and like holding hands with you is essentially how big of a deal that is. They basically were like, why is Jimmy, skipping around, holding hands with Satan? We don't understand. Where did we go wrong? And Jimmy is basically like, because basically it's also basically a middle finger to the idea of birth control, limiting the number of babies. Like, if you say birth control to some of the super duper Mormons, they'll be like, oh, that's as bad as abortion. You cannot limit children. Huh?
Even most of them are actually using it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
but it's
when they look into who actually gets abortions, a good number of them are Christian people who will then be protesting it the year before or the year after.
There's something.
And it's. Go ahead, Laura. I'm sorry.
There's something I need to bring up before Tria Tail goes back onto her point. Guys aren't supposed to masturbate because it also can deny a chance for a spirit child to come to the physical body. And that's actually in the speech we'll cover next week.
Yes, that is, and this is doctrine. This is not cultural. This is
Yeah,
doctrine.
this is doctrine.
Yeah, that was
last big meeting the top leadership had where they give instructions to everybody. They basically guilt tripped women for not having children fast enough. While they don't tell you outright you can't use birth control, they will guilt you if you don't have as many children as they think you should have. And basically, your bishop can determine whether or not you are having enough children. He has that right in Mormon church.
Jeez, that makes the bishop that was an obstetrician in my ward even more disturbing.
That makes a lot of shit to share.
I'm not kidding. He was an obstetrician.
I know. I'm not doubting that, because basically the bishop is not hired as an actual job. They treat it like a job and they work you like a job, but you basically have to have a day job in order. Think of it as having like 3 full-time jobs all at once.
I mean, I liked the guy, but it was disturbing.
So, if y'all haven't seen the movie yet, at his birthday, he gets told that his mom's going to have another kid, and he says something wasn't even very shocking. Oh yes, why don't you have a litter?
I was at that point I was thinking you already do.
And his dad hit Jimmy so hard that he caused Jimmy's mom to have a miscarriage. I mean, it went down through his genetic line and back up into his mom to give her a miscarriage.
I didn't think of that. I really didn't think of that. But no, like I said, that also, depending on how super mo your family is, one, you're dissing the idea that you should have as many children as possible, which again, skipping around holding hands with Satan. Two,
Hail Satan.
generally, Mormon, yay Mormon. But
Hail Mormon Satan.
Hail Mormon Satan. But like, and then he said something disrespectful to his mom. And this can vary depending on, how strict your parents are. If I talked back to my mama, I probably would have been like that. I probably would have been slapped that hard, no matter what the subject was. Like, you just don't talk back to mama. You don't talk back to your parents. And that may be a Utah thing that I just know personally. Well, no, and this is also this is not necessarily a Mormon thing either, because some parents, you do anything that looks like talking back and you will be hit that hard. So
I can't remember. Maybe it's just because I'm artistic, but I don't remember my parents being that consistent. I do remember my dad getting mad at me once at a Boy Scout camp, and I remember getting hit so hard I just saw like blue. And then the next thing I knew, I was getting up from the ground.
Not talking back to my mom was a big thing. And actually, my mom wouldn't have hit me. She would have made my life hell. But because she was more of an emotional, she was more into the emotional, never let it go kind of punishments, which does a different kind of thing to you.
Absolutely.
But yeah, basically, it's the combination of don't talk bad about our church doctrine of having as many kids as possible, and don't talk back to your mother, son.
But he was right.
But that doesn't matter. You're not supposed to talk back to your parents.
It's not healthy to have 7 kids.
8.5. Or a third, because it was her first trimester.
Although there is a saying in Mormon culture, it's like, if you can't tell if someone's Mormon, check to see if the bride and the mother are both pregnant.
So, another question is, what is it with Mormons and creepy brother-sister relationships?
Which creepy brother-sister relationship are you referring to?
maybe this is just because I was raised in a non-Mormon Christian household. We were always taught that Mormons were incestuous.
They aren't.
I know,
No. And
but
here's the thing.
this
We were
whole
taught.
the whole let's do our secret signal be touching each other in the inner thigh as a signal that we know each other was a bit creepy.
Again, remember how we were talking about Mormons don't realize that the subtext means something different to the outside world. They wouldn't even realize that is creepy, and it was not consciously written that way. It was just something that went whooshka.
I imagine.
So
I have to wonder if this started out as one of the road shows.
it might have. I know we did it a couple of times as a road show.
Okay, there's another term. Road show.
Okay.
It
All
was
right. It was basically an entire area would get together with their youth and do like either a play or a bunch of skits. And it would be a bigger area than what your normal congregation would be without going into a lot of details and going into twists and turns. Basically, our road shows, it consisted of about 300 youth for the area. Basically putting on a talent show or a play for all of the adults.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I think there might have been some promotion of LGBT things that got them stopped eventually, but they were one of the few outlets for creativity of that kind within
I
the
didn't
church
realize
itself.
that's why they stopped them.
That's just my guess.
I thought they stopped them because it costed the church quite a bit of money to put them on, because
That would
you
be my
had to
other
get
guess.
costumes and like equipment, and like you had to feed the youth because it was usually at dinner time.
But
So it costed them money, so they axed it.
the Mormons love food. I've never been to a Mormon event that wasn't a church meeting that didn't have food.
Food, yeah. The only exception is Fast Sunday. Everything else, there's like food. And in my case, it was always good food.
Fast Sunday?
Oh, Fast and Testimony Sunday.
You don't eat for the first 2 meals of the day.
Yeah. And you give them, supposedly, you give the money you were supposed to spend on the meals to pay for like the church welfare programs for people who don't have enough to eat.
And how often would they do this?
Oh,
Once
the church?
a month.
Yeah. And the church actually, sorry, go ahead.
Once a month. And what were you saying?
The church actually has a fairly robust welfare program for its members.
Yeah, but it's got a lot of strings attached to it.
Well, there's the first one
Depending
for
on
its members.
Well, technically,
my
anyone
dad-
can. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, it depends on where you are in the hierarchy and how popular you are. But if you're not popular and you're not in the hierarchy, they will guilt and shame you for asking for help. My dad was working 4 jobs at the time when he asked for help. And then they said, well, apparently you're not worthy, so let's work on your worthiness, or else you wouldn't have to be working 4 jobs. And why aren't you hunting for a better job, even though you're only getting 4 hours of sleep a day?
He's working 4 jobs.
Because he was
Yeah,
trying,
and
he was
they were
trying
like-
on child number 15. He had to have a couple minutes of data.
No, well, not in his case. But it was just like I said, we have this thing that we call bishop roulette, where basically some bishops are nice and they're as helpful as they can possibly be. And then other bishops use their power basically to do power trips and treat everybody like dirt. And it depends on whether or not you got the nice one or the mean one. We always had mean ones where I was growing up. So, but yeah, my dad was guilt tripped. He basically had to take a full day off of work, which screwed us up badly, and then go into the church unemployment office just for them to be like, oh, hey, well, here's websites you can go to, and don't forget, God loves you. And they also told him that he had to work in the bishop's storehouse, which my mom put a stop to that. She was like, there's no way he can do work in the bishop's storehouse. I'll go work in the bishop's storehouse.
What
Basically,
is-
she had to that's their welfare program. That's where they keep all the food. So she had to go and volunteer to get food for us. And
Yeah,
my dad also had to pay back tithing because he hadn't been paying tithing.
When my
Back-tithing.
yes. When my
So the welfare program is extensive, but they can be terrible about it.
when my family
Not
did it,
always, but yeah.
we had to do work for the church because there was no bishop storehouse near where we were. We weren't we were a large city. We were in north central Pennsylvania, and the biggest city there is Williamsport, which is 26,000 people. So
Yeah.
they'd get trucks in like once a month or something. We'd go get food, but we'd have to. First of all, they made my mom sit down and plan out nutritious meals with this.
Oh yeah, they won't let you get whatever you want, which to a certain degree I understand, but they're so anal about it. It's like, okay, well you have 4 people, so you can get X amount of like meat, and it has to be this kind of meat. Like you can only get the expensive stuff. Like you can't go and grab all the expensive stuff. You
We
have
ended
to
up
like, yeah, you can get like you can get as much of the cheap stuff as you want. But like if you want the expensive stuff, that's not going to happen. They severely limit you on what you can get.
doing work like yard work around for the church, and I remember getting church sausage, and it was awful.
Church sausage. Oh, that is so sound like an innuendo. I got the bishop's church sausage.
And this goes back to something we said earlier. Because
Lara didn't think about it. Said something.
Today I got all hot and sweaty to get the church sausage.
But like I said, occasionally you will get a bishop who's like, all right, I see that your family is struggling enough. Let me just give you stuff. But they generally don't last long because the welfare program is used to guilt you and keep you in line and shame you for not being able to take care of yourself, even if it's not your fault.
All right, if anyone wants to complain about capitalism, you can do it in the chat now. I'm not going to, because I really don't think capitalism is the problem.
So I have one more question about this whole movie.
Oh no.
I don't know if y'all can see the stream, but I've had the picture up for a little bit.
Is it, why the hell is it a musical?
No. Oh, and it's not showing it. It's a couple seconds behind. What was the heck? Why? The nose thing. This whole song about having noses like their dad and putting on fake noses and
I guess the only thing I can think of is that was Mormon attempt at humor. Mormons aren't allowed to watch anything, so they don't know what humor is. Like, if you're a good Mormon, you've never seen anything past a PG-rated movie.
It was awful.
Unless it's a Star Wars or Lord of the Rings movie.
And I know it wasn't meant as such, but it kind of came somewhat like an anti-Jewish kind of thing. We got big noses, so we can't be famous.
Oh gosh, I didn't even think about that. Like, Mormons think that they're lost Jews. So...
Oh
no! Yeah, remember.
Yeah, they do.
Oh no!
Remember, we're not Gentiles. God, I hate saying that.
I know, right?
I'm going to have to, at some point, go over. I did a research on a group called Christ Church or Christ Church or something like that, and it's a group of really white, anti-anything else, and they started from England with the belief that the Jewish people in Israel aren't the real Jews. Instead, the British and the American people are.
Oh,
That sounds kind of like
sounds kind
like
of
they took
troubling.
Mormonism and twisted it
Well,
even worse than it already was.
the Mormons don't. Ow! Oh God!
Oh, you all right?
Sorry, something just went out of alignment.
Well, it predates Mormonism, so I wouldn't be surprised
Ow!
if if it influenced Mormonism, because it also
I would
influenced some Protestant churches.
okay.
Protestant,
I would
Protestant.
I wouldn't be surprised either because basically Joseph Smith took because he was a con man, so he was basically trying to get as many people conned as possible. And one of his strategies was this is popular, or this is or this is not necessarily popular but accepted enough that I'm going to steal it.
Or damn it, I
He
got
took
caught and have to justify it now.
Was he really into pyramids?
Yeah, he was into Egyptology.
Then he
He was
probably got
into
it.
Jewish traditions.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
that belief got mixed in with pyramidologists believing that the pyramids were predictions of the future, and it's a really weird long story, but yeah, it's a good chance that it probably influenced Joseph Smith.
the seer stones that he supposedly used to translate the Book of Mormon, it was a fairly common folk magic at the time to use seer stones to go treasure hunting and try to find treasure. And so that was his original con, was I'm going to go treasure hunting using this stone that I found in the bottom of a well. And then when he would say, here, treasure's here, and then he'd have the family start digging, and then he'd be like, oh well, I'm sorry, but Native American spirits hid it away and they're guarding it and you can't get to it. And that was his con. But it was actually a fairly common con at that time. And his family was heavy into folk magic, which the Mormon church does not like to admit. But that was the first time that he actually took an idea that was common or popular at the time and then acted like he invented it himself. The Book of Mormon, the story behind it, is based on two different books that were circulating at the time that were saying theoretically that Jews actually came over to the Americas and were the ancestors of the Native Americans.
Okay.
And his Book of Mormon thing is not like he didn't come up with that at all. He might have come up with the names and like maybe some of the minor storylines. Oh yeah, the names
in
are
the Book of
stolen
Mormon
too.
are similar to names that are actually found throughout the Mid-Atlantic region.
Okay, I forgot about that. So like he didn't even come up with the names.
So
he
he's
just
like
basically
an author
was like,
who wrote books and then like, oh, I need a name. Oh, my next door neighbor, he's named Jim. Let's write Jim in here.
Or Pennsylvania
yeah.
has a place called the Lehigh Valley.
Oh no! Oh no!
Let's name this character Lehigh and take the TH off.
Yeah, so like I said, he basically was like, he figured out that the best way to con people was to try to take common or popular things, twist it around. Essentially, if you want to study on pop culture during the time that Joseph Smith was twiddling around, just go look at his stuff, because that's basically all of his stuff. Everything that he came up with a couple of exceptions, was pop culture of the time. The Book of Jim.
Well, we are about to hit 90 minutes, so
Book of Jim.
before we close it, Lara, do you have anything you're coming out soon?
Well, actually, I need to get some stuff done. Like, I need to do the patron exclusive, and I need to get some stuff up on my channel. So, but I've been working.
Okay, well, good for you. Tritel, anything you have coming out?
Yep, I am still working on the Bishop interview and Protect Every Child video. It's taking a little bit longer than I expected, but I'm still working on it. It will still come out. And then after that, I'm going to be talking about the difference between being excommunicated and resigning from the Mormon Church. So those are two very big projects of mine coming up. Hopefully, I have those up as soon as possible. But my segment that I do on my channel is called Tria Talks. You can go to my channel and check out what I've got there.
One thing I forgot and might want to bring up, 2 weeks from now, Godless Engineer will be joining us.
Yes. Godless Engineer will be joining us to talk about
Boyd K. Packers, who is now deceased, so I'll skip calling him Boyd KKK Packer. Little factory speech.
And the little factory speech had to do with how to build power workshops, right?
Yeah, something like that.
It's about masturbation.
About overcoming masturbation specifically.
Anyway, I have coming out this Thursday a video about a Christian comedian named Mike Warnke, who in the 1980s, 70s, 80s, and early 90s was known as one of the highest paid entertainers in Christian music because they considered comedy albums to be music at the time, and also an expert in Satanism. And all went well for him until someone decided to actually check out his story.
Is this part of the 80s satanic panic?
He helped start it, yes.
Okay. Well, thanks, Sorry, go ahead.
Him and that book, Laura or Someone Remembers, and another book were three of the things that helped start off the satanic panic. And he was actually on the 2020 TV episode, and Oprah Winfrey and some other stuff to help urge people on about being worried about all the thousands of kids being sacrificed a year.
And just a tip, don't watch Saturday's Warrior unless you have some insulin ready or any type of diabetes medication. It is just so sugary, saccharine sweet.
Okay, well, I hope to see you all next weekend after next, around 3 or 4 p.m., and we will talk to you later. And yes, I used to be able to quote him as well, the Kitsune Cavalier. I used to love him. And I will talk to y'all later. Let me stop the stream.